Angela Robinson is a retired Connecticut Superior Court judge. She wrote a column for the Washington Post titled "History Shows Why It's Time for a Black Woman to Sit on the Supreme Court." And Paul Butler is a professor at law at Georgetown Law Center, previously served as a federal prosecutor in the Department of Justice's Public Integrity Unit. And Judge Robinson, let me start with you. I mean, there was a bunch of things going on. Honestly, anyone's record in these situations is fair game. You have a long public life and public career, totally fair game. But as someone who did serve as a judge, I wonder your reaction to that, this sort of obsessive attempt to try to make her look soft on child pornography, and all of the kind of implicit work that was being done ideologically about how the criminal justice system works and how downward departures are inherently suspect, et cetera.
It was really challenging to watch. And as a retired judge, I had great empathy for her because I understood that she had to really carefully calibrate all of her responses. Mm-hmm. But as someone who studied history, this is not new. I mean, the way they went after Judge Jackson was very much a play from an old playbook. They were waging a war of attrition to try to wear her down, to try to get her to show in some way that she wasn't the brilliant jurist that she is. So it was challenging to watch because she shouldn't have had to go through that. But we know from history that that's the path you have to walk to break through ceilings.
Yeah, and in terms of the motivation here, Paul, I thought this was a really revealing moment. So Ted Cruz has a bunch of eruptions. At one point, he wants to interject and enter something to the record. Durbin says, no, I'm not giving your floor time. And then Noel McCaskill, who's watching this, tweets, Ted Cruz looks like he's checking his mentions after his back and forths with KBJ and Durbin. He's had his head down during all of Kuhn's testimony, even as Sass and Tillis are clearly listening to their Democratic colleague and then not even before him. And then an LA Times photojournalist, Kent Nishimura, says, can confirm this. He was searching Twitter for his name. This was right after his exchange with Chairman Durbin. And I felt like, okay, well, I mean, we knew this was what was going on, but it explains a lot.
Senator Cruz and many of the other Republicans have abandoned their constitutional responsibility to advise the president on his most important nominations. Instead, they're doing performances for Fox News. And Chris, as you so well laid out, none of this would come as a surprise to Thurgood Marshall, the first black man in the Supreme Court. 55 years ago, during his confirmation hearings, he got attacked for being soft on crime and a judicial activist. But Chris, here's the thing. Justice Marshall ended up being confirmed by a vote of 69-11. Nobody expects Judge Jackson to get that many votes, even with her superlative qualifications and her judicious responses to the race-baiting Republicans. It really makes one question how far we've come as a nation, especially when not one of the 100 senators who will vote on Judge Jackson's confirmation is a black woman like Judge Jackson.
That's a good point. And we should also note, Judge, that Ketanji Brown Jackson was elevated to the appellate court by Joe Biden last year, where she got, if I'm not mistaken, I think 3 or 4 Republican votes. Yes. And it seems clear that she won't get those this time around. For no reason, right? I mean, like, it's just that people are now paying attention to that vote. But back when they weren't, there were at least a few of them who were like, yes, this is clearly a qualified person.
Absolutely. I mean, but it's not surprising. When Constance Baker Motley, for whom she references quite often, went through the Judiciary Committee, they waged a very similar attack. They tried to paint her as a communist, as you've already said, and they tried to wear her down. They basically spent almost 9 months trying to wear her down. So we know that Judge Jackson will persevere. She said that in her statement, and we know that she will get through. But no, I don't think she's going to get those 3 Republican votes.
Yeah, there's that old phrase, the best revenge is living well. And in this case, Paul, I think the best revenge is confirmation and lifetime tenure for many years to come in a role that in the immediate future is going to be a very difficult but important one on a court that seems poised to do some really, really, really destructive stuff.
Yes, and questions about Judge Jackson's sentencing and her judicial philosophy are entirely legitimate. And the judge has excellent answers, but the Republicans don't care. They're treating her like she's a defendant in a criminal case. It's an extraordinary level of disrespect. But Chris, these questions about crime, the Republicans are playing with fire. There's a tragic history that comes from this white supremacist association of black people with crime. This is a woman with 3 cops in her family who's been endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police. This is a judge who sent a lot of people to prison. But the Republicans care nothing about disrespecting a black woman. Anita Hill was the last black woman to have a prominent role in a Supreme Court hearing. And while the Democrats have evolved since then, the Republicans, they're just doubling down.
Yeah, the cotton question, should we be catching more murderers, is such an insulting and despicable and condescending and stupid question. And let me just say to Ted Cruz, if you're watching this, I learned long ago, name searching yourself on Twitter is a path to spiritual desolation and eternal sadness. Turn away from it. Angela Robinson and Paul Butler, thank you both.